Everybody, it's good to be back with you again today. Yes, it's Tim here in our study through the Bible one day at a time, one chapter at a time. And our reading for today was in Exodus 5, 6, and 7. And we see that Moses was leaving Egypt at the end of chapter 4, and then in chapter 5, he meets with Pharaoh. Um, this might be a little bit different because I really feel like God has laid it on my heart to share with you. Um, a few verses from chapter 4 in this transition between 4 and 5 that may seem like really strange verses in the Bible when you read them. What happened was, on his way to Egypt from Midian, he stopped at an inn someplace along the way and was met by the angel of the Lord who tried to kill Moses. And you may wonder, what in the world is going on here? Well, it goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 17 when God reconfirmed his covenant with Abraham. And one of the things he did was he gave him the sign of the covenant, and that was circumcision for every male who was a part of his family. And it was not just for Abraham's family, as it is for your generations and for each male child that's born, even in future generations. On the eighth day, they must be circumcised as a sign of the covenant. And from the reaction of his wife, we see that Moses had not done that. When he was in Midian, he married a woman who was a Midianite, and you can see a family conflict there in this scene as it plays out in Genesis. When this child was born, I assume Moses would have told his wife, our covenant is that on the eighth day this child is to be circumcised. His wife did not agree, and to keep peace in the family, Moses just let that slide and let it go. Now, when Moses was a shepherd in the backside of the desert, God had not approached him then. God was not trying to kill him then for not being obedient to this requirement. So, what's going on now that's different that he meets him at the end? Well, it relates to a passage that we find in the New Testament in James chapter 3, where it says, "Be not many masters, for they shall receive a stricter condemnation, a greater judgment is given to pastors in the church than to those who are not pastors." Now, here was Moses. He's going to be the leader of God's covenant people, and yet he had not been obedient to the covenant himself. And he needed to take care of that issue first, and then he could go to be the leader among these people. And that's what James is talking about in James chapter 3. In 1 Timothy chapter 3, when it gets the requirements of chapters, it says that a pastor must be someone who is blameless. How many times have we seen pastors involved in scandals of different kinds? I know one pastor who was embezzling money from his church, and when he was finally caught, he had embezzled $100,000. No, way too many. Pastors have been involved in affairs or molesting young people and as a part of their church. And what happens is they go through counseling for 90 days, or they're in rehab, and then they come back and say, "Okay, I'm all right now. I've been through counseling," and they go right back in the ministry as a pastor. That should not be, my friends. They're not blameless. I realize God can forgive those sins. They can be used by God, and maybe as a warning to someone else, if nothing else. But I think they can have a ministry, at least in telling future pastors, this is what happens. Don't be like me. But I would say that when you're caught up in these scandals as a pastor, your days as a pastor are finished. You don't belong behind a pulpit from that point on for the rest of your life. And that's why God was so serious with Moses as he met with him on the backside of the desert. And that's why I think we should be serious as Christians, that our leaders, our pastors are blameless before the Lord. And as an example of how we should all live our Christian lives, even those who are not pastors. But your people will follow you, but they're not going to be any closer to the Lord than you are in your ministry if you're a pastor. And with that scandal or that shame in your past, you not only shamed the Lord, but you've hurt people in their walk with the Lord as well on your journey. My thought for the day and call it my rant, but it grieves me when I see that happen, and I hope it does you too. Well, we'll pick up this study tomorrow. We're still in Exodus. Our reading for tomorrow is in Exodus 6, 7, and 8. So read that and be back with you again and have a word to say about those as well.